Agile.FM. Radio for the Agile community. I'm your host, Joe Krebs. Agile.FM. I had the opportunity to meet Karen Favasa Spencer at an Agile New England user group event, and we talked a little bit about her new book called A to XP, the Agile ABC book, which is a reference to kindergarten and a very lightweight approach to books. And she actually hosts the website agilekindergarten.com, garden here with a T. This book actually got some really, really good press. For example, Linda Rising, actually, author of Fearless Change, actually quoted, "I love this little book. I think it's time we all went back to kindergarten and learned our ABCs." So here's the conversation I had with her. Karen, I am actually sitting in front of your new book. It's called the Agile ABC book. The official title is A to XP.
That's right.
That's a brand new release. Congratulations.
Thank you.
This book you wrote, there's a lot of language in it, but there's also a lot of images in it. This book is it's a wonderful, and I don't mean that in a condescending way. It's a little book. It's 55 pages.
Well, you know, Joe, we talk about having short stories, having time-boxed items, keeping it simple, and then we go ahead and write 300 and 400 page books. So I decided to eat the dog food and actually write this book in an agile format.
So this book I'm holding in my hands, this has a lot of images in it. It has a lot of text in it. It would be almost, if it was bigger, it would be a coffee table book, a conversation piece, right? Is that what it is?
That's exactly what it is, Joe. It's really a conversation starter for the teams amongst themselves and also with their stakeholders. So many of the teams, when I ask them, what books have you read, or, how are you becoming agile, they kind of blank on me. They say, well, gee, we're doing agile. There's just so many books. We don't know which ones to choose, or I don't need to read a book because I'm already agile. But then they don't understand all the language and the concepts. So this book was intended to be a conversation starter among the teams and with the stakeholders.
Yeah. But it's also an interesting thing for people who don't have a lot of time getting into it.
Exactly. This is a book you can easily read in 30 minutes, and you can really skim it in 5. I actually showed it to my dentist, and I wrote a book, and I pulled it out. It's like your new baby. You want to show off pictures. And he sat there and he read the entire book, every word, while I was sitting in the chair.
Awesome.
He was obviously a fast reader, but it is possible to absorb it very quickly.
Yeah. So what I was checking was, because the book is called A to XP, if there is a C. And there is 0 for 0 defects.
Yeah, there is a Z and there is a Y. That's right. But I couldn't resist the name A to XP. It was one of those brainstorms you have early in the process that you get attached to.
Right. So the book, although it's very nice, feels good in your hand, comes out as an ebook in a few weeks from now, which is about mid-May.
I'm hoping so. I have submitted it to iBooks, so it'll be on the iBooks bookstore or in iTunes coming soon. But again, you and I, we're agile coaches. We believe in making things tangible and physical. Right. We know when you put it on the computer or you put it in a drawer, you kind of lose track of it. I've had teams tell me that they keep this out in their team area, and they'll pick it up when they're talking about something and say, well, let's just look at this and have the conversations. And Scrum Masters have been using it to frame the conversations with the teams. So I think having it really tangible in your environment is much more useful.
Right.
But that said, it's fun to have the ebook too.
That's right. People can take it with them on the road.
Absolutely.
Even though it fits into a suit pocket here, it's super easy. So you do a lot of coaching work. You do a lot of client work. You do transformation work. What are you working on these days? What are you up to?
Well, I'm up to a lot of things.
Beside writing interesting books.
Besides writing, I'm up to a lot of things. I recently was involved in Agile Games. That's an annual event, and it was just a wonderful event. So I like to participate and volunteer in the community in that way. I currently am on a contract near to my hometown.
Okay. Yay!
In an Agile capacity, and I've started writing another book. I think I've been bit by the bug.
Okay, awesome. So is that also part of that Agile Kindergarten series?
I think so. Part of me really does believe in keeping things pragmatic and going and taking a mini lesson approach to work. Oftentimes we get bound up with analysis paralysis. We do that in our waterfall environment, but we also can do that in Agile. And we have to think of everything we want to think about how to size a story or how to add a buffer or how to do these things. And they're all wonderful. But when you have it short, when you can manage to say it on one page, then you really understand it. And it shouldn't be that everything you ever think or everything that should be said is on the page. The page should just be a model to help you get the concept going so you can become an owner of it yourself by working through it. So the next book is going to be not quite as short and sweet as the Agile ABC book, but it's going to be a short series of how do you gamify agendas? How do you have an effective Agile meeting and not have them go sideways and go on for hours on end when you really want to get to the point?
Yeah. As playful as this book is, and the colors, the illustrations and everything, we see the Agile Kindergarten, the logo in the back. How do corporations respond to something like that? It's a very
I went
immature,
out on a limb.
Yeah.
I went out on a limb. I really went out on a limb when I decided to adopt the name Agile Kindergarten and to go in this approach. But the fact of the matter is, I am a former kindergarten teacher. And as a former kindergarten teacher, I was very interested in the psychology of learning, the child development, the adult development. And after a few years in kindergarten, I became an administrator where I was working with the main office and with the adults and the corporations. I was also training teachers. And I was just amazed at the similarity between how children learn and how adult learns, even though they say that adult learning is differently. But I was appalled at the bad practices I saw in the organizational level. So I got interested in organizational theory and complex adaptive theory, and that is all really related to the stages of development that we go through in our thought processes. For example, people will say, oh, I'm an auditory learner or I'm a visual learner. But most people will say, well, I really need to do it myself to understand it. And that is the way people learn. So I got into this understanding that the learning process that is used by good kindergarten teachers, where they make things visible on the walls. They keep their lessons short and sweet. Don't get bogged down in a lot of detail. Pay attention to what's going on with the kids, with your students. I sometimes say that running an Agile team or project is very much like running a kindergarten class, except there are fewer bathroom accidents.
Oh my God.
So I did go out on a limb when I called it Agile Kindergarten and took this approach. But it is very effective. People do respond if you're approachable and you say, let's make this easy, let's not bury you in a lot of data, let's keep it simple.
But it's also in kindergarten, correct me if I'm wrong, it's like there's a lot of transitions from one thing to another. You don't stick to one activity for a long period of time as a child, obviously, because of the attention span, right?
Well,
is that something we also see in adults, actually? I'm just curious.
Well, actually we do. There are plenty of studies saying that people in meetings will spend 10 to 20 minutes attending before their minds start to wander.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like, don't we need also like changes in scenery and a new play? Here's a new play, here's a new play. Maybe not every 2 minutes, but
But every
yeah.
10 to 20 minutes. As a matter of fact, when I run meetings, I do like to have an activity every 10 to 20 minutes. When I'm doing a training, I will break every 10 to 20 minutes to do some sort of recap activity so that they can get the new learning from their short-term memory into their long-term memory, because this is the way where we function. Biologically, we've evolved over thousands of years to work in a certain type of life form, life environment. But in the past 100 years or so, we have transformed our environment tremendously in a way which is really not suited to either our physical biology or our cognitive psychology. So I really see the agile approach of doing things in short chunks and correcting yourself is much more appropriate. For heaven's sakes, Joe, you told me when we were coming to meet that you got a little bit confused with your GPS. It wasn't really telling you where to go.
Right.
But if you had paid attention perhaps to just a few signals, like I think I told you, look for the big main entrance and go up the staircase.
Right.
That is much easier for you to intuitively grab a hold of rather than paying attention to the GPS.
Right.
I know this is really heretic.
No,
because
no,
we're working in
This is
software,
a
we're
truth.
building all this great
Right.
new material.
Right.
But we do need to marry the electronics to the way that people do work. The usability factor.
Absolutely. Is that also something because you were so into the Agile Games conference? Is that something? Is that a connect for you?
I think so, because and it's funny, people will assume that because I'm a former kindergarten teacher or I take this approach that I'm going to be just full of games all the time. I admire the people who are able to do a lot of these improv things, but my games do tend to be very focused. I tend to be very pragmatic. Matter of fact, I am now a certified collaborative architect. I took Luke Holman's class through Innovation Games, and I'm looking for the activities in the games that are actually going to give us actionable output.
Okay.
If you don't go in with a purpose and actionable output in mind, you're wasting your time. There's just too much to do.
Awesome. So you were in the games. You have a wonderful book which just came out soon on ebook. You're working on another book.
Yes.
And I just want to wish you good luck with writing that book. Wish you good luck with all the coaching and the transformation. I want to say thank you so much for carving out some time talking to me, and talking to you soon, I would say, right?
Absolutely. I'm going to come down and visit you in New York City sometime.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for listening to Agile.FM Radio. If you are interested in learning more about today's guests, past guests, or learn more about the upcoming program and future guests, please go to our website at Agile.FM. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.